Welcome to Henderson Rotary. We should start the way we always do, with a four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun? Absolutely, it's fun. It'll be funner next week only because we're going to be in person, but it's fun this week too. Wayne Jenkins, do you care to lead us in prayer, please? I think you're muted.
Oh, here it goes. Okay. Let's pray. Thank you, Father, for this privilege we have. We thank you that as citizens of this country, that we have unique privileges centered around your word. And we pray that that will always be the case. We pray today that you would bless this time together, bless our fellowship. And we pray that you'd bless the work that Rotary is doing literally around the world. And we are privileged to be at least a small part of that. And bless our community and all that we do here. And it's in your holy and precious name that I pray today. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Wayne. Miss Lori Tuggle, our Sergeant at Arms, do you have our Rotary trivia question today?
I do. Hello, everyone. And let me just get my question pulled up here real quick. So in what year was the Kentucky Derby? What year did the Kentucky Derby make its debut on national television? Unmute yourself and shout out the answer.
You got to figure out when national television started.
1956.
I was going
No.
mid-50s, 54.
Okay.
52.
Who said, Alex, you're correct. Did
Hey!
you look that up?
Hey!
Actually, if you watched
Good job.
local news this week, that was Ron Rhodes' Kentucky Derby trivia question on Wednesday. Thank goodness. But
All
yes,
right.
it was nationally televised for the first time in 1952. And what I kind of found interesting was 1949 marked the first year it had been locally televised. So it took 3 years from then before it became national. So that is your trivia question. Be sure next week you bring your dollar bill, because I will collect your dollar bill for the first time in person. Thank you for participating.
Yay, can't wait, cannot wait. All right, Mr. Alex, please introduce our member spotlight.
Sure. And I'm going to make a couple other quick introductions if I can, President Amber, and good afternoon, everyone. We have our two newest Rotarians on with us today, Lindsay Lacosto with Downtown Henderson Partnership. Hi, Lindsay. Thanks for joining us.
Love
And
your
then-
hat.
Yeah, we love it. And then Joelle Dula is also on. Joelle's our other newest Rotarian and former student ambassador, I'll add. So good to see you, Joelle. And we will have a red badge training next Thursday at 11 a.m. in person at the Presbyterian Church. So thank you, Eric, for hosting us there, and hope to see our red badge Rotarians then. And we do have a guest and hopefully prospective member too that I'll let introduce themselves, Toddy Todd. So Toddy, if you want to unmute and say hello to everybody, then you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry for not having the video up. I'm my computer's on a docking station. Don't have a camera yet. So yeah, looking to join some organizations here. So just recently moved back, opened up the State Farm office, took over for Al Beatty. So looking forward to getting involved and getting out and about in the community. So appreciate the invite.
All right. Thank you. Happy to have you. Come back anytime. And our member spotlight this week is two-time past president of our club, Mark Chumbler. And you all can blame Mark for me being a Rotarian too, since I think, Mark, you were my official sponsor to join Rotary. So thanks for that. But
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mark's a great community servant and has definitely been a leader in our club for a long time, and we're lucky to have him. So Mark, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Alex. It's fun to be on the spotlight amongst peers that are unmatched in our community. So this is fun. Thanks for the honor. I just want to share really briefly that I was fortunate to join our club in 2005. I was the newly minted executive director of St. Anthony's Hospice, and feeling very fortunate. And so I joined the club to simply just to network within the community better. I will tell you that I was a junior Rotarian in Paducah as a high school senior, where I got to go to the Paducah Rotary meetings for a month. And I was so happy that it was a 5 Wednesday month. They had Rotary Club on Wednesdays. So I got to go to 5 Rotary meetings, and I said, I'm going to be a Rotarian when I grow up. And so when I started working on this side of the river and joined it at St. Anthony's, I joined for the networking. But I will tell you, within a couple of years, I absolutely fell in love with our club and fell in love with those of you who are on this call and have been in all of our calls and meetings and rosters over the last 16 years. It truly is an honor to get to serve this community alongside all of you in this club. I love it. Other 2 quick things I'll say real quickly is when I was president the first time in 08 and 09 was when we started. And at that time, we called it, just like they did in Paducah, the Junior Rotarian Program. Because of my experience as a junior Rotarian, I wanted to make sure that we gave that experience to high school seniors, as those of you who are with us as student ambassadors. We picked the student ambassadors at that point in time to be our representatives from the high school. And so I'm pretty proud of that. And then in 18 and 19, one of the things that board did, Lori Tuggle was a humongous part of this, is that when I took office, we were financially just kind of getting by. I mean, we weren't doing great. We had our accounts receivable was about, I don't know, 35, 36,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, which is too much for a small 100-member club like ourselves. And that board that I was fortunate to serve with whittled that number down to just $5,000 or $6,000 by the end of that year. And so we left that year in much greater financial stead than we were when we started, and I'm pretty proud of that. So thanks for the honor. As Rod Wilkerson used to say, you all make me proud to be a Rotarian, and today's one of those days.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank
We
you,
love
Mark.
you very much.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Very much. And if it wasn't for you, I would not be the president today. So thanks for picking me to be the COVID president.
Either congratulations or I'm sorry, one of the two.
Thank you. All right, student ambassadors, welcome. Can you show or tell us who's with us today and what your plans are after graduating?
Hi, my name is Jake Perry. I'm planning on attending Murray State University and majoring in mechanical engineering.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Pluma. I plan on attending Transylvania University, but I'm undecided on my major.
I'm Hudson Thomas. I plan on attending Henderson Community College in an undecided major.
Hi, I'm Ashley Wolf. I plan on attending Southeastern University, and I'm going to major in social work.
Hi, I'm Brayden Glick. I'm attending Western Kentucky University and majoring in biology.
Awesome, great. Thank you very much for joining us today. Just a reminder, our graduate scholarships are still released. I think they're due the end of next week. Our April month of service is for the Henderson Christian Community Outreach. Actually, I should have taken off that immediate need happened yesterday, so that's already passed. But they are still looking for hotel-ready foods for donations, such as ramen noodles, mac and cheese, pre-cooked meats, tuna, etc. And you can drop that off at their location. Again, as it's been mentioned before, we do start in-person meetings next Thursday at the Presbyterian Church across from the library. We will follow the CDC guidelines, and looking forward to Golden Corral being back and looking forward to seeing all of you guys. Our district conference is Saturday, June 5th. There have been multiple emails come out from the district governor, so you can register on her links. If you are not getting those, you can email me and I'll send you that if you would like to register to attend. And that is all I have. Mr. Mark Chumler, do you care to introduce our guest?
I'm honored to do it. Tim, is this the 3rd year we've done this? 4th year we've done it. Wow. This is a treat. Tim Grimm is truly one of my favorite friends. He's one of the people in this world that I admire the most. I will tell you very quickly that the phrase half-ass has never been a part of Tim Grimm's life ever, not one day. In fact, it's not just not half-ass, it's full-ass plus. Tim Grimm, whatever he does with amazing gusto. Professionally, he's the branch manager for Xylem Solutions. If you've got any industrial water pump needs anywhere in our region, they absolutely can take care of you. Tim does a great job with that. Personally, I've shared this about Tim in the past. He has a bourbon and scotch collection in his home, in the basement of his home, that I promise you is unmatched in this region. That boy likes his spirits and he knows them well, and he has a great collection. So he's a bourbon and scotch connoisseur. He's truly a sports fanatic. It doesn't matter if it's Evansville North High School athletics. He is their historian on steroids. University of Kentucky basketball, Notre Dame football, Colts football, the Iditarod, or horse racing. It's amazing. And he's an awesome father, husband, and friend. His son and daughter-in-law, two of my very best friends, and it's an honor to have him here. I just want to say, the last thing I want to say is Tim sent me a spreadsheet in early March. It was 2 months ago. And he said, okay, here's my first thoughts on the Derby. 4 freaking page spreadsheet, some of which he's going to show us today. And on the spreadsheet, it had every possible horse, their trainer, their sire, their grandsire, their second generation sire, their broodmare sire, their broodmare second generation sire, and their lineage all the way back to the beginning of horse racing history. The dude's amazing. I'm tickled he gets to share with us about our state signature event. My friend, Tim Grimm.
Well, Mark, thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it. You know, my personal motto is very simple: nothing in moderation. So I enjoy the opportunity to address this group because it's typically populated with people that appreciate quality horse racing. I will be sharing some slides throughout this rather than just dryly talking like I did last year. So I'll put one up to start with simply list the 20 horses that are in the race, and you'll see a ranking on the left, and that ranking is based upon, there are 4 major sanctioning bodies for, or ranking bodies for thoroughbred horse racing, and they all individually rank their top 3-year-olds when Derby time comes around. So amongst the 20 that are entered, I took the average ranking of the National Thoroughbred Racing Association, Horse Racing Nation, the Daily Racing Form, and Blood Horse Magazine, which are the 4, and averaged them to give you an idea that whatever the morning line odds read, this is how the experts rate the 20 horses that are in the field. You'll see that essential quality across the board is rated the best horse in the Derby, ranking all the way down to Brooklyn Strong, who rated out as the 23rd best 3-year-old. So as we approach Derby Day, for the 3rd year in a row, the apparent best 3-year-old will not be competing in the race. I know that says essential quality is a 1, but a month ago, essential quality was number 2 or 3. And if you recall, in 2019, the day that post positions were drawn, morning line favorite Omaha Beach was forced to scratch due to an ailment in his throat. He went on to win 2 more Grade 1 stakes races later in the year, and that was evidence of his greatness. But his scratch through the wagering process into a tizzy, and with no clear favorite, you may recall that was the race that saw a disqualification end up handing the Derby to Country House as a 65-1 long shot. Last year in April, 2 horses stood head and shoulders above the rest a month before the Derby. One was Bob Baffert's best horse, named Nadal. Well, Nadal was an unbeaten colt who had won 3 consecutive graded stakes races in outstanding fashion. Baffert himself claimed at the time Nadal was far superior to his second best 3-year-old, horse named Authentic, who actually won the September Kentucky Derby. But Nadal suffered an ankle injury at Santa Anita and was retired to stand stud. But Authentic wasn't even the second best 3-year-old that year. The second best was a colt out of 2000 Derby champion Street Sense named Maxfield. And he too was undefeated as the final Derby preps approached. And most racing aficionados were anxiously awaiting a showdown between Maxfield and Nadal, when just 2 days after Nadal suffered his career-ending injury, Maxfield also injured his ankle. And it didn't end his career like it did Nadal, but took the rest of the injury to heal. In his first race as a 4-year-old back in January, Maxfield came out and won a graded stakes race by 5 lengths. And now he rates as one of the best active 4-year-olds. Prior to those 2 years, the favorite following the post position draw had won the Derby 6 consecutive times. So the fact we don't have what was judged to be the best horse in April means this one could be up in the air. And as we approach the 2021 Derby, one horse again looks superior to the field. His name was Life is Good, and he's trained by 6-time winner Bob Baffert, ridden by 2-time winner Mike Smith, and he's owned by the same group as Triple Crown winner Justify. Well, Life is Good was undefeated and had literally run away from the field in his first 2 graded stakes races, winning the San Felipe Stakes, which is an important Derby prep, by 8 lengths over multiple horses that are on this slide. Unfortunately, he developed bone chips in his ankle and will not race until this summer. And before that occurred, every one of those groups I mentioned had him rated the #1 horse. The reason I point this out is the last 2 times it's happened, the Derby's been thrown into a tizzy as a result. And the favorite in each of the last 2 races did not make it to the finish line first. Which isn't to say there will not be a favorite in Saturday's race. There certainly will be. There'll be a substantial favorite. It's quite the opposite. But anyone who's on the call and needs me to tell them that Essential Quality is rated as the best horse in the race by the morning line odds probably isn't following the Derby to begin with. I typically address this group with the caveat that I'm here to point out the horses that are much more likely to give you a payout that will let you leave the track with enough winnings to buy the family a nice dinner at House of Como if they get the right set of breaks or the right pace to the race or ride by their jockey. And history is not on the side of Essential Quality. Let me put a visual on the display that might reflect more of the story that I'm seeking to tell here. There we go. Here you can see the 20 entries for the Derby by post position with their jockey's name, the trainer's name, and the morning line odds. Certainly, number 14, Essential Quality, has been established as the prohibitive favorite. His 2-to-1 odds will likely end up closer to even money by post time or less. And with 5 wins in 5 races, including the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last fall, and having been selected the Eclipse 2-year-old Horse of the Year, what's not to like about Essential Quality? I mean, he's already won over $2 million in his career. Well, for starters, in 34 of the 36 horses that won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile for 2-year-olds on dirt have failed to win the Kentucky Derby the following year. That comes out to 94% of the horses that won that race don't win this one Saturday. The last to do so was Nyquist 5 years ago. For another thing, Essential Quality has going against him, you'll see that the jockeys and trainers with yellow boxes around their names have never won the Derby. Now, Essential Quality's jockey finished first 2 years ago. But as I like to say, he finished first riding down the stretch like a drunken sailor on shore leave and ended up getting his horse disqualified in the race. So those can be indicators of a horse that might have a problem. But more importantly than any of that has been the way in which Essential Quality has won his last 2 races. Now, he won them But from my perspective, he's won each race less and less convincingly. In the Southwest Stakes Derby Prep, on a sloppy, muddy track, his jockey allowed him to get pinned in traffic on the turn, and he had to weed through traffic to run down the leader. And in the Bluegrass Stakes, which was just earlier this month, he barely managed to win by a nose over highly motivated in a race that could have gone either way. For my money, if I'm going to bet $2 just to get back a $3 ticket, I want a horse who appears to be getting better with every race, not one who is managing to hang on to win. No, for my money, if I'm going to wager, I look for horses who will bring odds of better than 5-1, who appear to be arriving at Churchill Downs in peak form and ready to fly around that final turn down the home stretch. To my mind, 2 horses in particular fit that mold for Saturday's race. For one, and I can say this from having watched every Derby prep race in 2021, other than Life is Good, no horse ran a single race that was more impressive or more dominant than the show that number 15, Rock Your World, put on the Santa Anita Derby in early April. Despite the fact that Bob Baffert's other horse, Medina Spirit, was an even money favorite that day, Rock Your World shot out of the gate with an opening quarter mile of just 22 2/5. And that would be a fast Kentucky Derby pace. And it's typical of what the great ones open with in the Derby. He carried that speed through a half mile and posted a 46-second time. Again, that's a Derby speed for a great horse. Everyone anticipated that Rock Your World, in just the 3rd start of his career, would fold in the remaining 5 furlongs and surrender the lead to Medina Spirit. On the contrary, he finished 9 furlongs in under a minute 50. And again, that's very representative of a Kentucky Derby winning pace. And he dusted his closest competition by 5 lengths despite trotting across the finish line. What made the performance even more dominant was that it was Rock Your World's first race he had ever run on dirt. His first 2 races, both of which he won just as easily, had been on grass in January and February. A couple of items to note with Rock Your World, though, are there have only been 2 horses in 139 years to win the Derby without racing as a 2-year-old, which Rock Your World did not do. A horse named Apollo did it in 1882. And it was until Justify in 2019 won that it happened again 135 years later. So either Justify opened the door, or the curse of Apollo may take another 135 years to get a unestablished horse to the finish line. He's also facing a jockey change going into the Derby. That's not often a good sign. His trainer selected former Derby winning Joel Rosario to replace Umberto Rispoli, who had ridden Rock Your World in all 3 of his career races. The trainer, however, said that Rosario, quote, knows how to ride a front winner to victory at Churchill. Rosario rode morning line favorite Orb to the Roses in 2013. Also worth noting is that Rock Your World shares the same sire as the legendary Gun Runner, who finished his career as the all-time leading money winner in the history of thoroughbred racing. Another note worth mentioning is that 3 of the last 6 Kentucky Derby winners started out of the number 15 post position. It's certainly not a bad thing to draw that spot these days and miss the crush of horses that are trying to get down to the inside. It offers a horse from that position a pretty straight line at the first turn if he's willing to go out fast, which Rock Your World has shown he's willing to do. As I mentioned lightly raced horses. It's interesting to note that COVID-19 and the changes it wrought in sports in general, and racing in particular, has an impact on the entries in this year's race. For the first time ever, there will be 4 horses entered in the Derby with just 3 prior races under their belt. Each year, there may be 1, maybe, a horse that is so lightly raced, and in most years, all entries have 5 or more races by which to judge their performance and pedigree. On the chart, you will see that I have marked them with a yellow star and a red 3 to indicate which horses fit that description. With just 3 races, it's hard to get a feel for how true a horse runs to form or how it handles different situations. It's also a sign of immature horses who may not be accustomed to such a large field, which the Derby always has. Some of those horses have only been around 2 turns once in their careers. It makes wagering even more of a guessing game. Of the 4, I believe you can count out number 5, Sainthood. While he has a great trainer in Todd Pletcher, his jockey's new to the Derby, and he only made the race by virtue of a runner-up finish in the lightly contested Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway Park. Number 12, Helium, is undefeated in his 3 races, and he looked very strong winning the Tampa Bay Derby as a 15-1 long shot. But he hasn't raced since that race 8 weeks ago. You might say that makes him a fresh horse. It might, but since 1929, that is nearly 100 years, no horse has won the Kentucky Derby after a layoff of longer than 7 weeks. I discount Helium as a result. I love Soup and Sandwich, but I love him at 15-1 odds or longer. He's 30-1, as you'll see on the morning line here. But that's likely to drop some by post time. In his first and only trip around 2 turns, he ran second in the Florida Derby and was closing hard at the finish. He is a son of Into Mischief, who is without a doubt the hottest sire in thoroughbred racing now. People are paying $250,000 for a standing foal out of Into Mischief. Sons of Into Mischief typically have no problem going 1.25 miles, especially when the broodmare sire was the second hottest sire in thoroughbred racing, a horse named Tappet. He gets $200,000 for a standing foal. So with Soup and Sandwich coming out of pedigree like that, you got to look at him and take him seriously. And he'll also be ridden by Tyler Gaffleone, who's the best of the crop of up-and-coming young jockeys and who rode War of Will to the 2019 Preakness. Yeah, I like this horse, but only at long odds. He could be too young to handle the big field or the distance. We just don't know enough. If he gets bet down under 15-1, there's no way I'll be putting money on him. I mentioned that there was another horse besides Rock Your World that I liked in that sweet spot between 5 and 10-1 odds. I was speaking of number 17, Highly Motivated, another son of highly rated Into Mischief. He's trained by 6-time Eclipse Trainer of the Year, Chad Brown. And he's ridden by 4-time Eclipse Outstanding Jockey of the Year. So there is no doubt that this horse will have the very best handlers. Keeneland Racetrack is 85 years old this season. The Lexington track has seen its share of great horses over the decade. Highly Motivated set the all-time track record at Keeneland for 6.5 furlongs as a 2-year-old in the Nyquist Stakes in November by running a minute 14 and 4/5. Bob Baffert often says when he's asked about his great success at Churchill Downs, Bob Baffert says, well, it always helps to start with a very, very fast horse. Highly motivated is a very, very fast horse. He had a problem at the start of the Gotham Stakes Derby prep when he stumbled, leaving the gate, nearly fell to the ground, was in 7th place and having to run wide through the turn, but still finished strong for a 3rd place finish. His last Derby prep was in the Bluegrass Stakes, where he battled favorite Essential Quality side by side for the last 1/8 of a mile, and then ended up losing by a head bob at the finish line. To me, betting Essential Quality at even money, when you can get highly motivated at 10-1, in their last race, they were separated by less than the distance of a ruler. I'd rather take the 10-1 shot myself. And at morning lines at 10-1, I really like to think a $2 exacta box of the 15 and the 17, which would be a $4 wager, has the potential to return over $75 if it is. Those are the kind of wagers I like to make. Looking at the other favorites, at 8-1, number 9, Hot Rod Charlie, has lit up Churchill Downs in practice the last 2 weeks. And he'll draw some action. But I probably won't be among those wagering on it. I suppose it's because I've seen him get beaten too often by horses that couldn't make the Derby. He only won 2 of his 7 career starts. It's also true that the winner of the Louisiana Derby hasn't won the Kentucky Derby in 25 years. Again, he's looked great the last 2 weeks at Churchill in practice. I've just seen him get beat on the track by horses that weren't as good as other horses in the race. I get more excited about the horses that'll be starting on either side of Hot Rod Charlie. To his inside is Medina Spirit, number 8. And while he's 15-1 on the morning line, and probably for very good reason since he hasn't won a big race yet, he did finish second in his last 2 starts. And for your 15-1 betting wager, you get both Bob Baffert and John Velasquez. Between the 2 of them, they have 9 Derby victories. He's just not your typical Baffert horse. He only sold for $35,000 as a yearling, and he seems to lack the tactical speed that you need to win at 1.25 miles as you dash for the finish line. He can win, but it will take a perfect ride for Medina Spirit. And if you need one of those, there's no better jockey to have on you in the Derby in this field than John Velasquez. On the other side of Hot Rod Charlie in the 10 hole is Midnight Bourbon, and I don't just like him for his name. He's the son of the legendary Tisnow, and he's ridden by big money Mike Smith, a 2-time Derby winner. Midnight Bourbon has a first, 2 seconds, and 2/3 in 5 career graded stakes races. This colt reminds me of the 2019 Derby 3rd place finisher, Tacitus, a horse who finished in the money in 10 of his 12 career stakes races, but only won 2. Midnight Bourbon doesn't possess elite speed, but this horse could easily hit the board if you're looking at a exotic. Given a good starting post position, which he has, he's got Mike Smith aboard him, and if the pace sets up slower than anticipated, if the pace for a 1/2 mile is run in 48 seconds or slower, Midnight Bourbon will contend in this race. He's that kind of horse. But if it goes faster than that, you'll be hard pressed to keep up with the winner. The second favorite prior to drawing post positions was Known Agenda. He won the Florida Derby, and that's been the Florida Derby and the Santa Anita Derby have been the two greatest indicators of who might win the Derby for the last 15 years. He got a perfect ride in the Florida Derby in that race, and he's undefeated in his last two races since his trainer Todd Pletcher put blinkers on him. He has a two-time Eclipse Jockey of the Year award in Irad Ortiz, but he drew the dreaded #1 post position. Sure, the Derby has been won from the one hole 8 times in history, just not in the last 35 years. Now, the new one-piece 20-horse gate that they're deploying at Churchill this year means that the path the inside post will follow is more like the 3-hole from years gone by. It'll be a little bit further out from the fence. I'm just not convinced Known Agenda, who prefers to run from off the pace, can afford to sprint to the first turn to avoid the crush and still win the race. If he lays back like he's accustomed to doing, it's awfully difficult to pass a dozen horses in the far turn and still have something for the finish. You know, I feel that summarizes the horses I like best and that the bettors like best in this race, and those that may be betting favorites that I discount. One thing I want to touch on is the breeding of this year's Derby crop. It's amazing how inbred they are, and I have some charts that I believe will bear this out. When you glance at what owners paid for horses, you find that some in the field sold for $500,000 or more, and some sold for comparatively little. What possesses an owner to bid $725,000 for what turns out to be a long shot like number 11 Dynamic One, or $950,000 for 16 King Fury, who ran out of the money in 2 of his 3 major stakes race appearances? How is it Medina Spirit, a top-rated horse, can go for just $35,000? Or Brooklyn Strong can make the Derby after having sold for just $5,000 as a 2-year-old? Which, by the way, COVID impacted that. There was nobody at the auction, and his owner got him for a song. Still, he went for $5,000, and now the horse is in the Derby. Well, it's due to bloodlines and auction day workouts. So I've flipped here to this slide, and I've broken down the paternal pedigree of the 20 entrants in the 2021 Kentucky Derby. Now, the entrants are in the shaded or in the unshaded area. You'll see their names and recognize them as you look at them. Their fathers, their sires, are the one immediately to their left. Their grandsires would be then 2 to the left, and their great-grandsires would be out here to the edge. Do you notice anything? 18 of 20 entries in the Kentucky Derby come from just 3 horses through their lineage. By that I mean, when you look, this group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 come through AP Indy, going back just 3 generations. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 go back to Northern Dancer, a Derby winner. AP Indy was a Belmont winner and a Breeders' Cup winner. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 go back to Mr. Prospector in just 3 generations. Mr. Prospector was a sprinter, and yet has provided horses the likes of which have won every graded stakes race there is. Looking at Mr. Prospector, he was sired by a winner of the Belmont and the Preakness. His father sired Derby winner Majestic Prince, a horse named Alidar you might have heard of, who dueled with Affirmed in all 3 Triple Crown races, taking second, and Mr. Prospector. Mr. Prospector's progeny through the years, either he has sired, his sons have sired, or his grandsons have sired 9 of the last 25 Kentucky Derby winners. You think back to Thunder Gulch, the 95 winner, Fusachi Pegasus, who won in 2000. More recent winners like American Pharaoh, Super Saver, Country House, Always Dreaming, Mind That Bird, all came through this bottom lineage here. You look at Northern Dancer. Northern Dancer actually won the Derby in 1956, 57. It was the mid to late 50s. And Northern Dancer put together a string of sons and grandsons that have continued to produce the horses that dominate our interest. Justify came from this line. When you look, there's a horse here named Stormcat who has 4 direct descendants in this race alone, including 4 of them that I think have very good chances to win the race. Stormcat had great success as a 2-year-old, winning a Grade 1 stakes and finished second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but ultimately suffered a tendon injury that ended his career. But by the 1990s, Stormcat was getting $500,000 per standing foal that he bred. He ended up with producing multiple Breeders' Cup winners as well. And if you look, Into Mischief appears, oops, need to go back. Into Mischief appears right here as the sire of these 3. Now, Into Mischief never won a race on dirt longer than 6.5 furlongs. His only graded stakes victory was a Grade 1 sprint. His dam ran 28 races in her life, and dam is the term you use for the mother of a particular horse, right? A thoroughbred horse. She ran 28 races in her life, and they were all allowance races. She never made it to a stakes race. She only won 5 of the 28 allowance races she was in. But she was out of a sire whose horse line drew back to Northern Dancer's father, Neartic. And somehow the combination of genes, when bred to a mare out of a line from another Northern Dancer, have produced no less than a dozen $1 million winning thoroughbreds over the last 5 years. Last year's Derby winner, Authentic, was sired by Into Mischief. Audible, who finished 3rd in 2018, was out of Into Mischief. So as you look at this and you see 18 of 20 are out of the 3 lineage, when you look at who has a chance to win this race, you have to start discounting horses that fall outside of that, because so many of the last 25 past winners have come from inside this cluster of horses. Now, Midnight Bourbon comes out of Tiz Now, and Tiz Now was an exceptional horse. Keep me in mind, out of Leoban, out of Uncle Mo, there isn't a track record for those horses winning the classics. So you say, is this just a coincidence? No, it's not. Because when we go to the maternal side, now we're looking at the same cluster of horses, the same 20 horses. They're all the way out here on the right. Their mothers are shaded in. And the reason the mothers are shaded in, the dams are shaded in, it's very rare for one mare to give birth to more than one colt that wins Graded 1 stakes races. It happens. But usually, because a mare in her prime, obviously, only has 5 or 6 foals, whereas a sire can yield as many as 150 standing foals a year. So when you look at it, When you look through the maternal lineage and look at the dams and their direct parentage, their direct parental line, again, AP Indy has 4 through the maternal line. Northern Dancer has 4 through the maternal line. And Mr. Prospector has another 9 through the maternal line. So it's not uncommon to judge a horse's potential to win a big race based upon where do they get their form from. One of the reasons you can see that Medina Spirit sold for just $35,000 through the maternal line, he didn't come through a particularly highly regarded bloodline. Superstock is discounted in the Derby after having won the Arkansas Derby. It's not known if he's got the pedigree that it takes to compete at this level. And one of the things that I noticed as I looked at both of these charts, the greatest horse that ever lived is not represented. Nowhere do you see the name Secretariat. And you might think, how can that be? The greatest horse to ever run. Still holds track records, still holds records at distances. No horse better than Secretariat. Well, there's a surprise here. There's a point to the story. Because in actuality, 65% of the 2021 Run for the Roses entrants has Secretariat in their direct bloodline. I went to great distances to point out AP Indy and Seattle Slew. AP Indy and Stormcat. Because you see, AP Indy was sired by Seattle Slew. That's obviously from Mendes bloodline. But his dam was sired by Secretariat. So AP Indy was the offspring of Seattle Slew and Secretariat, a pair of Triple Crown runners. And you can see that that runs through the paternal side very closely. When I mentioned Stormcat and how prolific his bloodline had been, Stormcat was the son of a dam by Secretariat. So that bloodline runs through the paternal side through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the entrants. And on the maternal side, by virtue of AP Indy having 4 more through the maternal side, 65% of the horses that are running in this race can draw their direct lineage from the greatest horse who ever ran. I hope, oh, and one other thing, if you look at this list, Soup and Sandwich is the only horse in the race to have Secretariat on both the dam side as well as the sire side. If his odds stay up, he's worth the wager. And I hope my 4th Derby Day talk has kept you entertained as well as informed on what to look for in the 147th edition of the Run for the Roses. I'd now like to open it up the floor for any questions you might have.
I just have a comment first. I haven't been in Rotary that long, but this will be a hard meeting to beat. I've loved it.
And I love the hat.
Thank you. It's
Thanks for being in spirit.
Breeders' Cup.
Hey, Tim, Lindsay actually asked on the chat if we had access to your spreadsheets. Do you have a thought about that?
Mark, I believe you have a copy.
I do.
I sent it to you.
Yep.
Well, I sent you the PowerPoint this morning.
Yep.
But that's all. This is the converted spreadsheet, to a PowerPoint. So
yeah,
feel free to share.
Thanks. What if I send them to you, Amber, and then Amber, could you send it to the full mailing list? Okay, great. Is that good, Lindsay?
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
Good. Thanks.
How many horses were in last year's Derby compared to this year's Derby? Are there any that were in both?
The Derby is different than any other stakes race for a number of reasons. First of all, it's the Derby, right?
Yep.
But second of all, it has a qualifying, every owner's goal is to at least run in the Kentucky Derby, if not win it. And as a result, everyone wants in the Derby. It's a $3 million race to win, but it's also so prestigious just to get in that they had to create a qualifying pattern for it, in which a horse has to show that he's worthy of being in the Kentucky Derby. And so they have 20 qualifying races that are each assigned a number of points. And as the races get closer to Derby Day and the entrants get more and more clustered and into tighter groups of good horses, the points go up for each race. So where certain Derby qualifiers last year, the winner got 10 points, second place got 6 points, third place got 4 points, and fourth place got 2 points. As the time nears the Derby and the races and the purses get successively higher, the points go up. And pretty soon they're 20, and then 10, and 6, and 4. And then they get higher. Then they go 50, 20, 10, and 5. And finally they get to the point where the win pays 100, and second is 50, and third is 20, and fourth is 10. And at the end of the Derby prep session, the 20 highest point award horses are invited to attend the Kentucky Derby. They have the right to pay their entry fee and be in the race. Now, if any of those 20 highest decide not to attend, and there are some that are, then it falls to the 21st horse, the 22nd horse, the 23rd horse. This year, uniquely enough, 5 horses failed to accept their bids and intend to run in either the Preakness or the Belmont, possibly because they came out of earlier races not healthy, not entirely healthy, and the Derby was too soon for them to run again, and their owners decided to pass this opportunity and will try and win the Preakness, because the Preakness and the Belmont are prestigious races in their own right, for not just for the purse they pay, because they also pay millions of dollars, but also for breeding purposes. If you can say you won one of the classic races, whether it's the Derby, whether it's the Preakness, whether it's the Belmont, then it's certainly worth money years on to be able to say that you won a classic. And so as a result, some horses pass the Derby for a chance to win one of the later races for the purposes of breeding prestige. So every year there's 20, and have been for a decade or more.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Tim, out of every Derby that you've been to in person, what has been is there one that stands out as your favorite?
Well, I think Mr. Brown, Big Brown, sorry, Big Brown. He was a beautiful horse, just a gorgeous horse. Big, lived up to his name, he was big, you know. I truly thought he was a Triple Crown winner, and unfortunately when the Belmont came around, he had a race day injury that took its toll during the race, and he wasn't able to finish. But yeah, that was you know, horses are athletes, and they have a presence. They know what they are. They know they are physical specimens that are unparalleled. It's something, you know, when you see how inbred they are, right? There's some mannerism, some characteristics, some drive, some mental set that this particular group of horses just seems to breed into its offspring. And they are cocky, and they are sure, and they are horses that know they're going to win, even when they don't. All of them go out. but there's always something special about that horse who knows he's special. And Big Brown was one of those. Justify was a horse like that. Justify was the most beautiful horse I ever saw. He red in color, huge hind quarters, and he had this stride that you just knew was different. It was a freakish kind of stride, just longer than the average horse. I don't know how to describe it other than you'd watch him going down the back stretch, even in practice. If he was breezing, you'd go, my God, he covers so much ground. It was just something to see. It's truly a shame we only got to see him run 90 days or so before they retired him and put him out to stud for $150,000 a standing foal. So, but those were probably the most gorgeous horses I saw.
What's your favorite racetrack that you've been to and not in Kentucky?
Yeah.
Keeneland's
well,
not
yeah.
enough.
Actually, my favorite track is in Kentucky. It's Keeneland. Keeneland
Right,
is
I figured it would be.
kind of course. But Saratoga in New York has that same feel upstate. Saratoga itself is much like Lexington. It's horse people. Where Lexington has horse and bourbon people, Saratoga is just horse people in New York. And it's well, horse and baseball. They really like their baseball up there, which I'm a baseball fan. So it's a special place to be. I recommend anybody that can get to Keeneland, go watch a stakes race at Keeneland. Churchill Downs has a buzz about it that you can't match anywhere on Oaks Day or Derby Day or Stephen F. Foster night or what have you. But Keeneland just has this atmosphere that is engaging. The difference between Churchill Downs and Keeneland, to me, is like the difference between going to the state-of-the-art baseball stadium, which Churchill represents, or going to Fenway Park in Boston to watch a baseball game and having that anachronism, that throwback to a time, the sport of kings amongst the wealthy is the way Keeneland strikes me. So.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Grimm. It has been a pleasure having you join us twice during my presidential year. So I hope that everybody, I don't know what you say, what's a good luck charm for whenever people bet? What's something good to say? Win big? I don't know.
It's certainly not break a leg.
Absolutely. All right.
So I hope you all cash tickets, and and I hope my advice. Well, as I'm also prone to saying, my advice is worth exactly as much as what you pay for it. So thank you for the opportunity to address your group.
Absolutely. We'll see you next year. Bye, everyone.
I'll
Have a
be
good
back
day.
as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.